Hi everyone, my name is Kendrick and welcome to ENFP Mail. Today I get to interview Amelie, so welcome. Did you hear me? Hello?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So can you please tell us what your
Sorry.
official typing result is?
Oh, yeah. I just sort of zoned out for like a second. I'm sorry.
No worries.
My typing result is MF NETE. And sleep last is what they were certain about. They weren't certain about the middle animals, but I think consume over blast. So that would be play, consume, blast, sleep.
Gotcha. Now, so you are an ENFP jumper.
Yeah.
And when you got your typing results back, what did you think and how did you feel?
Well, I was expecting it. So it was just sort of like, it was a nice confirmation still. It was not what I had expected like way in the beginning, but a lot of people on like the Discord server and the Facebook group and everything, they had been saying this type for me. So I went into the call expecting it, because I had a call with Shan. But it was really funny because I actually started with just asking her some questions instead of her giving me my type immediately. And she kept dropping hints like endless possibilities and abstract. And I was like, I think she's also seeing the same. And then she was like, yeah, NETE. And I was like, yeah, okay, that makes sense.
And then Dave confirmed it later on then? Or how?
Yeah.
Gotcha. So how do you feel about it though? Like you knew that you expected this because everyone has been telling you that you are an ENFP NET jumper. But what about you? Did you think you were an ENFP NET jumper before you got officially typed? Like before, or is it a surprise?
It was so because so many people had been telling me that, I started looking for it and then I started seeing it. And it was making sense to me. So I also like believed it when I went into the call. But before that, in the very beginning, I thought I was something totally different. I thought it was like lead sleep, but when people started pointing out the NE and the TE, I started seeing it. But it's so hard to see your savior functions, especially your first function. But yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So as talk about your play. What is your NET play like?
What is my NETE play like? It's weird because there's so many, like, the impression that you get of play a lot of the times when people talk about it is that it is very different from how I experience it. Like the NT play, I think I've heard from other people as well. Can be so much even in your own head, I just see it as like figuring stuff out, and it's like with people when I can. It's nice, like in the Discord server, just getting on voice chat and talking about ops and the functions and stuff, and just like throwing ideas out there and getting like a back and forth with people. But I also kind of do that in my own head, like sort of like, oh, what about this idea, and like what would people think of that, and how would that work, kind of.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Talk about being a sleep last. So that's one of the obvious one for you, right? So
Yeah.
the problems with your identity or health issues, like is any of those like a problem with sleep last for you?
Yeah, it's a big problem. I've had a lot of the sleep last crashes, that people talk about. Like I've had a bunch of jobs that I would like be working 13-hour days and really enjoying it and just working really hard for a while, until suddenly after like half a year, it's like, oh, I can't get out of bed anymore. Shit, what happened? um and like I'll just be working really hard and just constantly going at something, and then suddenly it's like, oh, I haven't been breathing right for a week and now I can't sleep and it's just all messed up. It's just really like not taking that time to just sort of pause. And also like, yeah, identity, I don't even know what is identity is supposed to be. Yeah.
Okay. So I can relate to a lot of things that you said about like you said you were working so much, 13-hour days, and then after 6 months you crash, you can't get out of bed. So I've experienced all that personally as well. So
Yeah.
totally relate to what you said. And also being like a workaholic in general, like I've done all that stuff as well. So it makes sense. Um, now, what about the identity stuff? You said that you have trouble with the identity stuff, which is kind of interesting. So can you talk about that then? Like,
Yeah.
what is it about identity that you have trouble with?
Um, it's like I was talking about this with some other people, and I figured out that how I experience it is sort of, it's almost like there's so many ways. I see all these possible ways that I could sort of interpret like my thoughts and feelings and experiences, and sort of so many different possible sort of versions of myself that I could sort of be, I guess. And it's hard to see like what is actually consistent with reality or with what I want. It's really, it's hard to explain. I don't know. It's, and also just when I'm with people, I've said this even before I knew ops. Like if I'm in a group of people and interacting with people, it's like I sort of am just sort of a vessel for the conversation to move through and for the group interaction to move through. It's just that super double feminine play is just all that there is. And then it's like, it's just, I'm a person. I don't know, that it feels weird.
Yeah, that is weird. I don't relate to that at all. Like that's so true.
Oh
But you have double masculine sleep. So
yeah.
have you ever experienced your double masculine sleep? Like, do you understand how it works or how it feels? Or
Yeah, I have. I think I see it a lot. Like when I have that crash, it's like then it really shows up, and it's so strong and solid that, like, for example, I would have the crash from a job, and then it's like my FI just goes sort of like, we're getting out of here. Like, I don't want this anymore. We're not doing this anymore. And it's just
yeah,
that double masculine sleep. It's just like totally immovable, and then I just have to quit the job, and it's like I can't push against it because it's just so, yeah.
yeah. It's funny you mentioned that because like with the whole COVID thing happening right now. Um, I don't know about you, but like here in Canada, we're not allowed to go to work right now. So
Mm-hmm.
I've kind of been at home and collecting like government money while before they let us go back to work, because I am actually employed still. I'm just like staying at home, right? But like now that I'm at home and I have a chance to like process my thoughts and feelings, and I was like, you know what, I don't want to go back to work. you know like, like I feel so happy right now, I don't want to go back to work. So like what do you do for your day job, and are you also locked down in your home right now as a result of COVID? And then how, and the third part of the question is, how do you feel now that you have time to like process it?
Mm.
Because Dave said that the world has been forced to go to sleep mode now. So,
Yeah.
so let's go with that.
Yeah. Well, I'm a student. I study linguistics.
Okay.
And so I am pretty much locked down. Things are kind of reopening again now. We never had a full lockdown in the Netherlands, but
Okay.
mostly a lockdown. Um, and so I've been having online classes as well, but they're almost done now. Semester's almost over. Um, and yeah, it was the first couple of weeks I was really sort of fighting against it. I was like just distracting myself constantly from, I don't want to go into that inner world sort of.
Oh, okay.
But now I've gotten kind of used to it, and just used to kind of, being able to decide what I want to do with my day and how I want to go about it sort of. And um just kind of, yeah, having time to be with myself. It was really hard at first. It was like a difficult transition, but now that I'm here, it's like hard to get out of it again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. It's really weird, with that double masculine sleep. Like you feel kind of like it's hard to transition from like one
Yeah.
to the next point. It's like you're like stuck in that. Like once you get stuck in that thing, you don't want to move anymore.
Yeah.
So like if things open up again, like for you, you said you guys are opening up slowly now. Now you have to transition to that again, but you're like, but I like where I am now. So it's like
Yeah.
yeah, it's like you know, so it's
Yeah.
kind of tough with that double masculine sleep and double feminine play, you know. Um, you have consumed above blast, so let's talk about that. I
Mm-hmm.
think I agree with consume above blast since starting this interview. I think it's quite obvious, at least for me, that you're not blasting more than you're consuming, because you haven't given me any blaster lessons at all. Like I would have been
Just
giving,
wait, they're coming. No, I'm kidding.
yeah, but I would have been giving them to you right now already. But you're giving them, like you haven't given any. So let's talk about
Mhm.
that. So your consume's pretty good in my opinion. So talk about your consume.
My consume. Um, I'm just it's hard to talk about it because I can't imagine almost like not doing it, so it's hard to see like what is exactly. But I'm just always consuming something, and um, I it's all sorts of things. I like to change it up as well. Like recently I read like a book about Greek mythology, and then the next thing is astrophysics, and now I'm reading Joseph Campbell, and I just consume everything and anything that I can get my hands on, I guess. And as long as I like it, it does have to go with my FI a little bit. And um, I don't know much else to say about it.
Yeah, no worries. Now I can relate to a lot of the stuff that you said about like
Yeah,
one topic to the next, and like you have so many interests and they're all interesting, and
yeah.
your FI is on board with it. Um, for me personally, I find myself trouble. I have no problem consuming things that I enjoy, but when I have to consume facts like SE, I
Mm-hmm.
have trouble with it. So do you find that you have trouble with consuming things that is not like concepts and ideas and like stories? If it's like a hard fact, like you have to read an instruction manual or something like that, do you find that difficult, or is it still pretty good or pretty easy?
It it's more difficult. It's definitely much more difficult than if it is just interesting concepts. Um, I in that like if I have to like read an instruction manual or something, I do tend to go to like, can I figure this out just through play instead? You know, like can I talk to people and figure it out together instead of having to go through the like the all the sensory. But it's kind of weird because I also do feel like it has to be right and I have to make sure that I actually understand it. So I'll often force myself to go through it, but it is more difficult.
So
Yeah.
one of the things that Evelyn said, our fellow NETE sister,
Mm-hmm.
is that for her, she likes to skim through the sensory and then look for the concepts and pattern
Yeah.
first. So do you find that you're doing that when you have to look at the sensory?
Yeah. I think so. Yeah. I don't have any concrete evidence, but it seems right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your blast. So you're not blast last, it's blast third.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people blast third eventually get pretty good at it. Like for example, Phil DeFranco, for example, he's blasting every day, even though it's a demon for him. Um, how do you feel about your blast? Do you feel like you can use it pretty good? It's still like they call it hobby blast, I guess, or blast third is whatever your third function is your hobby, right? Or third animal,
Mm-hmm.
sorry. So let's talk about your experience with blast third.
I definitely see like hobby blast, and I see it also having developed over time because until I was like 15 I didn't talk.
Okay.
I would talk to like family or close friends. I would be super extroverted around them,
Yeah.
but I had so much trouble like speaking. But then I started, being forced to do debating and stuff in school. And then I took a rhetorics class and I started sort of getting into like the NT figuring out of how to make a good speech and how to do a debate well and that kind of stuff.
Right.
And then I started actually learning to do it and really enjoying it. And I don't want to do it all day long, but I enjoy like if I have time to actually prepare, I like sort of like doing public speaking. If it's something I really care about and I know I understand it well, like for example I read tarot cards, like hey there's the NF,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I spent like half a year just consuming everything and learning it and whatever and trying it for myself and blah blah blah. And now if someone comes up to me and is like, hey, can you teach me tarot cards, I'm like, yes, let's go. you know but yeah.
Since we're on that topic, talk about your NF. So I feel like even though we are NETs, that inside we're still NF. Like I feel very NF inside. So how do you feel about that? Do you feel like you're NF inside, and like, how do you feel about like when you hear NF stuff in general from other people?
I definitely feel like I have a lot of NF. I wear these necklaces every day. I call them my NF necklaces.
Yeah.
um, it's yeah. I've been into, you can probably tell, like spirituality and stuff. I'm really into it. Been for a couple years. A lot of NF stuff. But I do tend to have a little bit of a thing when the NF goes too far. Like I have a sort of hard line where it's like once we get into sort of like with the tarot cards, I have a friend who's also into them, but she talks about like spirits choosing the cards and this deck has a different spirit than that deck. And I'm like, we're getting a little bit too far here. But NF, yeah, I'm just into spirituality and like the whole peace and love thing. That's definitely there, you know. Yeah.
You know, that's very interesting that you mentioned that hard line because I completely related to what you said. Because I feel like, yes, I like the NF stuff a lot, but then there is a line when it starts going too crazy, you
Yeah.
know, like, yeah, like kind of like what you talked about, how like the spirit is going to pick the card or something. You're like, okay,
Yeah.
that's crazy now. That's crazy talk now. You know, that's not,
Yeah.
you know,
At some
uh,
point the TE comes in, it's just like, no, this doesn't make sense anymore.
this is not nuts now. But
Yeah.
so they said that with like NF and NT, like people with NT would argue for hours to like, you know, see who's right, or I guess find the best strategy to approach something, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then NF, it's like, what's the point? Like, what is our purpose here? Like, what are we trying to do, right?
Yeah.
So do you find yourself like, let's say you're talking to another NT person and they're arguing with you nonstop and you're getting like fed up and you're like what's the point? Like what the hell are we arguing for? Like this is the goal that we have, you know.
Yeah.
This argument is not serving that goal. So do you feel like you ever go to that point?
Yeah, definitely. It's just like I like arguing and figuring stuff out, but at some point it's just like, okay, but this isn't actually getting us anywhere, and it's not that important to like argue about all the little details. Like let's just see where can we come together, kind of, and also keep liking each other and not end up hating each other, and just get towards the goal. Yeah, see that definitely. But it's been something that's also kind of developed because I used to be very like one of those people that would just go on Facebook all the time and argue on every single post.
Oh yeah.
um
That's fine.
but I've over the past couple of years I've gotten more like, okay, but what actually is important? Like if I have group projects as well, I think I see that also, like my blaster that comes out if I have group projects, and then I'm just like, listen, we have our goal here, we don't have to argue about every single detail, we just have to get this done.
I think sometimes it's like a trap too, you know, like I was talking to my girlfriend about it. I call it like a potholes. Like, you know, you're going by your day, you're walking on the road, and then you can see ahead of you is like your goal or your mission. And then you see like a pothole on the floor, and then you
Yeah.
get like sucked in and you look at it. So like a lot of people get like sucked in that pothole, and I'm like, no, don't look at the pothole. Keep looking straight. That's where we need to go. Don't look at the freaking
Yeah.
pothole. And like I feel like maybe we're lucky because you know, we don't have NF last, but like I feel like if we had NF last, we would just keep looking at the pothole, you know, like we would not keep moving forward, you know. And I'll give you a concrete example, right? Like sometimes I'll disagree with something that Dave and Shan would say, and I'll go to the Facebook group and I'll talk about it, and then people start hazing me, and I think to myself, you know what? I'm gonna have a cutoff time when I would stop arguing. I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
There's no point of arguing with these people because they're just arguing for the sake of arguing, and there's really no point to it. Like I'm not gonna convince them that, you know, their point of view is just like, you know, it's just their point of view. It might not necessarily be correct, but like, you know what? I know it's not gonna happen, so let's just stop. You know,
Yeah.
this is a pothole. So that's kind of like how,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever experienced that. You were like, okay, you know what? I've been getting sucked into this too long.
Yeah.
Let's move on now. You know.
Definitely. Yeah, it's like, okay, this is just done now. And I see that a lot on the Facebook groups as well. Like I'll be scrolling through and just like see something and I'm like, I need to argue this. No, I don't need to argue this. No, I need to argue this. It's just,
Well, since we're on the topic of NF, like, what do you feel is kind of like your long-term purpose or mission in life? Like, have you gotten like a hint of that? You know.
I
By the way, before you answer that question, like, if you don't mind me telling me, like, what age group are you in right now?
oh, I'm turning 21 in 2 days.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah,
I think
that's good to know.
I think it's gonna be hard to find your purpose at that age then, because
Yeah.
it's too, like, I didn't know
Yeah.
mine when I was 21, so like.
I don't really have a concrete or specific idea of purpose, but I do know that I just want to. This is something that Chan also said to me in my phone call with her, and that really stuck with me. Is sort of like becoming a person who, in any circumstance, can find a way to bring value and joy to other people.
Oh, okay.
And that's sort of like I don't care that I don't care that much about what exactly I do in the world, but it's just that I want to be someone who can always make the best of it and find a way to make it valuable and give to people, sort of.
Do you feel like studying linguistics is going to help you get closer to that?
Maybe, because the specialization I'm choosing, which is communication, it's a lot about Dutch specifically as well. And if I do the right masters, I could become a teacher. And I think that teaching is, part of that is giving to people. But aside from that, I also could definitely very easily see myself not doing a lot with my linguistics degree in the end. It's more just that I was like, okay, I'm sort of supposed to go to university now, and linguistics seems pretty cool, so I'll do that. And I'll see where I end up.
Tell me more about being like studying linguistics. Is it like mastering languages? Like, what do you do with linguistics?
It's like diving into the mechanics behind language, sort of. There's different specializations as well. Where I'm going is language and communication, and it's a lot about how does communication work. Like, why is it that I do not tell you literally all the information behind my statement, but you can still get what I'm saying? Because there's a lot of, like, if I say, for example, even if I say, like, I went out with Susan and she bought a bag, then she refers back to something, like that kind of stuff. Like, how do we understand these things even if we're not literally giving all the information?
Oh, I see. I see. So you're kind of like breaking it down.
Yeah. It's like, I see it as a very NT kind of thing. Like, how does all this fit together?
Yeah, you're like puzzling something.
Yeah.
So we've covered NF now. I want to jump to SF. So we have SF last. Both have sleep last. So do you feel like, that's kind of like an area that you've had trouble with your life, being like SF cool, or having that, like, what's your take on the SF stuff?
You know that thing they say about how NTs don't know how to people? That's 100% true. I've always been lucky, no, not always, but I've been lucky often to have like nerdy friends. But SF is, I also see it as like, my SF is kind of very childlike. Like, you can see the teddy bear, like, in a very literal way. It's like I have this sort of like little SIFI childish thing where it's like, oh, I have a big teddy bear for some reason, and that's like, I like this, and it's like, why do I like this? I don't know. It's just not very mature. I see it, and yeah, just SF. It was kind of hard for me to realize and acknowledge that I need to lean into SF more, because I've sort of spent, especially my teenage years, sort of looking down on SF and like, oh, the shallow SF people, kind of, without having that term for it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh shit, that's what I gotta do. Okay.
Yeah, it really pissed me off. Like, when I was in college, like I had a period in my life where I went all SF. Just because like I felt like, you know, like my methods were not working. Like,
Mm,
you know, so I was trying to get in the dating scene, you know, like so I was like, okay, well, you know, NT doesn't work in dating, so you gotta go SF,
no.
you gotta go SF, right? You know, and then like so I went all in, like working out, getting like really ripped in the gym, and like dressing super nice. Like I felt like a douchebag actually inside, like doing it, but and like it almost like pisses me off, like looking back at like how I felt back then because I was like people were respecting me more that I was acting like a douchebag than like having all this knowledge and information
Yeah.
and like you know and I was like oh my god like I need to acknowledge reality and reality is that the SF gets more respect than someone at NT but I
Damn it.
there's like a part of there's like a strong resistance to it inside like I feel like I don't want to do this you know it's so douchey it feels so fake and shallow but you're like okay
Yeah.
and I don't know if you've tried doing SF before like but like even if you do a little bit of it it already has like a big result too and it really like boggles my mind and I'm like ah okay I think that's just life you know
Yeah.
just gotta accept that that's how it is like the SF I was talking to Dave about this too he's like it's like yeah man that's you gotta it's bullshit but that's how it is you know
Yeah.
so have you tried going all in SF before and like you know you watch movies and stuff like you see what like an SF girl is supposed to be like have you tried going all in and that just like to experiment to see what's gonna happen because I think that's a very fascinating like life lesson right there I think if you if you went all in that
I think I kind of have without consciously, I didn't have the terminology, of course,
yeah
but I kind of have in that, like, I had a phase because I went to another college before I went to this one for a
yeah
year. And back there, I had like a phase where I was like watching RuPaul's Drag Race. And I was like, just went all in on like fashion and stuff. And I became sort of like kind of SF popular in like a group of people like in on campus in the floor where I lived, and I was just sort of like like parties and karaoke nights and RuPaul's Drag Race stuff and like makeup and fashion,
yeah
and it was a weird experience. It didn't last very long.
yeah
Yeah.
but how did you feel about it like did you have fond memories of it or is it all like just like kind of like weird and foreign and alien to you
It's weird, but there's also some good memories. It was also fun. But that's also because even in that time, like the NT and the NF also still come through, obviously, and people that got closer to me eventually also were like, oh, wow, you're super NT and appreciated that too.
yeah
Um, but it was fun. Like, there were some fun times, definitely. But looking back now, especially at pictures of myself, I'm like, who is this person?
I think it seems like from what you're saying, like if you want NT to be respected, you have to go SF first. Because so people have to like get to know you from an SF level first. And then once
Yeah.
you know you from the SF level, then it's almost like, okay, now you have permission to like bring out the NT. I don't know if that makes sense to you.
Yeah, I think it does.
Because that's what you said, right? Like you said that like you went on that phase and then you started making friends and whatnot. And then
Mm-hmm.
when they found out that you were NT, they're like, oh yeah, that's cool. But it's because they kind of like accepted you already because you were SF first and then
Yeah.
NT second. So like when I went on that like college phase too, like I started throwing a lot of house parties and it was like really retarded to be honest. And like I was like just being a big moron. And like I have fond memories of it. I'm not gonna do it anymore, but like, it's like it is definitely like a weird alien world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But did you feel like it was kind of like fun that like people like thought you were SF cool and like you were accepted and like like
Yeah, it feels like a huge honor. Like, wow, I convinced you. I fooled you.
yeah that you're cool. um
Yeah.
yeah this is a fun topic actually like the SF stuff but no wonder people like SF. Let's go with ST first and maybe we could go back to SF again later but tell me about your ST blast. So are you very good at like because you're also info dominant right so
Yeah.
how important is it for you to have the most accurate information and then to present that information to the tribe?
Um, it is pretty important. I can let it go sometimes for the sake of like the play in the moment if it's not doesn't really matter. But especially if it's something that's kind of like in my consume or in my like sort of FI, then I'm like it has to be accurate and it has to be clear. And also like I mentioned group projects before, like I really see the like ST blast come out if I have to do group projects at university. It's like I'll make like agendas for meetings even, and I'm like, who am I? But like I'll have like agendas for meetings, and it's like we have to go through this step by step, and then someone else will come in with like, oh, but what about this thing? I'm like, no, we'll get to that later. It gets really like it's in this sort of weird awkward state where I have to go all in on it or I can't do it.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
peacock pretty well though with that ST? Like you said, you had a super organized agenda and you can go step by step, right? So do you feel like you can peacock really well? Obviously you can't do it all day, but when you need to use it, that it looks like really good.
Yeah. I think so. I would like to think so. I've had people tell me that I'm good at it as well. So I think I peacock my ST pretty well.
Like, do they think you're super organized?
Oh yeah. Yeah, now with the quarantine, my friends have seen sort of the truth of the situation. But for a long time, everyone was like, "Oh, Amelie's the organized one. She has her shit together," and I'm like, "I do." Okay.
Little do they know you're the chaos monkey. Yeah. Uh, Talk about being a chaos monkey. So you're an EP, right? So you're rebellious. Uh, you don't like authority. Like talk about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so I don't relate so much to the rebellious thing. It's more I relate to the chaotic thing more than the rebellious thing.
What about the obsession with
Like
freedom?
I yeah, that is definitely there. But they often talk about like fear of being controlled by the tribe, but I
Yeah.
don't have that so much, but I do have a fear of being locked in. Like of like making large commitments and with like jobs and stuff after half a year. It's like sure it was partly because I would crash that I would quit, but also just after half a year I'm like no, bored, got to do something else, move on. And right now like a couple months ago I had a huge breakdown, like oh my god, I'm in university, I have to stay here for 3 years at least to get my degree, I have to be in the same place, oh my god, what is going on? uh, so I see it in that way a lot.
Yeah, I saw the freak out, so definitely for sure. Like in the U.S. I don't know if you follow the U.S. news, but someone got killed there by a police.
Oh yeah.
Put their knee on this guy's neck, and then he died. So like, does that kind of stuff trigger you? Like the police abusing their power, and
Oh
then
yeah.
you know?
Yeah, that really does trigger me. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I was triggered for sure when I saw that. I was like, like I was really pissed off. I was like, this damn power tripping police, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
what about your let's go to your NT again. Um, were you always been like a nerdy kind of person since you were a kid? Like, is that has always been?
Yeah.
Tell us the pros and cons of being an NT nerd.
Oh god. The cons are that I was bullied for a couple years in school.
How so?
Like I just, was in I how do I start this story? Okay, got a blast. Okay. When I was 9 years old, my family moved to a new town, so new school, and there like the kids, like the SF popular kids, they would like come up to me and be like, oh, come play with us, and then when I was with them they would just be mean to me or ignore me all the time, so I was just always in the corner like reading the Lord of the Rings or something. um so that's a big con. Is I got very lucky when I was in high school and I changed schools at some point, that I found a bunch of other nerds.
Yeah.
But people are difficult, like small talk, that kind of stuff. Just I've learned it a little bit, but I was always just like, hey, can we talk about Star Trek and how warp drives could work in real life? And everyone's like, no. What? Why? Um, so that's definitely the biggest con. Pros.
Hold
So
on.
I get. Mhm.
Did you have a lot of male friends then, as a result of like, because like more like it seems like more males are NT. It seems.
It, my friend groups have been pretty balanced, mostly actually, pretty half and half. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Anyways, keep going.
But there are like in my high school friend group abnormally high concentrations of ADHD.
Oh,
That was really funny. Yeah, and like ADHD, autism spectrum disorder, like a lot of people in my high school friend group. I don't know, weird thing, but
they're all into
um
something.
probably, yeah. Um but pros of being an NT nerd, well, a lot of people tell me that I'm like way ahead of my peers and have like super good insights and I'm really intelligent or whatever. So I guess you could see that as a pro. I personally see it more like I don't think I'm ahead of anyone. I think it's just that I'm coming at it from a different direction. You know, like the people who are coming from SF and I'm coming from NT, but then to people coming from this, it looks like I'm ahead, but I'm actually just fumbling through the world as much as they are.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm, yeah, good at figuring things out. I'm a fast learner. I've never really had to work that much for school because I could just figure things out and understand things pretty easily. That's kind of biting me in the ass now because in university you do have to do more.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I guess you didn't get the training in for that like SI
yeah,
because you figured out things really quickly.
yeah.
Yeah, I related a lot to your story actually because I was bullied a lot too as a kid. So I used to get beaten up a lot by the SF kids too. Damn those SF kids, they're assholes. But like, so yeah, I can relate to that. Until I think when I was 18-year-old, I got rid of my glasses and I dyed my hair blonde and spiky, and then suddenly I was SF cool. So and and it like I felt so fake because inside I was like, this is not me. I only changed my hair, you know. So
Yeah,
I thought that story is kind of interesting because like I was like, okay, yeah, I got bullied too until I changed my hair color. You know, then I stopped. So maybe that's not like the lesson to NT people. It's like
mm-hmm.
have a cool hairstyle, and then no one's gonna beat you up or like bully you. You know, if you're like a
Yeah.
kid. Um, you are info dominant. So do you get upset when people don't have the accurate information or like they're lying or something like that?
Yeah, I definitely. I'm like, we have to. It has to be clear and correct, and yeah, it's just important. I don't really know how to explain it. I do sometimes. There's some like info dominant people that even I'm like, wow, that's really info dominant. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's the play energy that makes me a little more like playful, I guess. But because sometimes people will always complain about Dave and Shan's videos and Dave and Shan being too energy dom, and I'm like, okay, I get it, but also have some fun. Um, but in other areas, I definitely see it. Like for example, it's just like I said before, really, especially if it's something that I know a lot about, I will correct people a lot. I don't know.
Do you have an example when you did that?
So I don't know if you know Prem, the ENTP guy.
No.
He's like on the Discord server and stuff. He has a YouTube channel and we talk a lot. He's great. He's an ETI. And he one time, like, he's really into like philosophy, spirituality, a lot of the same stuff that I'm into. But one time he went off on this whole thing about like language and about how sort of our language influences how we see the world and it totally changes how we experience the world, because like in Germany they don't have a word for spending, so they spend less. And it was this whole story, and I was just like, I know that this is not true. So I was just like, I'm so sorry that I have to burst your beautiful NETI bubble, but it's just not accurate. And it's just, yeah, I
Oh,
couldn't keep quiet.
because you feel like he was making shit up.
Yeah, I was just like, it's just not real. And I know about this, I know about language, and it's just not real.
Yeah, he's pulling some stuff out of his ass and
Yeah.
telling it to people as if it's like the fact. Yeah, that pisses me off too. Like my youngest sister used to tell people that like I've been to 100 countries. And
Mm.
I haven't been to 100 countries. I've been to 88 countries, not 100. And then
Yeah.
it's like a joke now, you know, because she like makes up numbers to people, and I'm like, you know, like I'm cringing inside because it's like, no, that's not the accurate number. Stop making stuff up. But I guess for her it's fun, right? So she doesn't care. So it's like,
Yeah.
so like Dave and Shan are both energy dominant too, right? So it's sometimes for me, I feel like it's kind of frustrating because like
Mm.
it won't explain why they came up with this like answer. It's like, okay, we typed this person's this, and then there's like no explanation. You're
Yeah.
like what? But I get what you're saying. Like, yeah, sometimes you're just having fun, so don't take it too seriously, right? It's not like
Yeah.
it's not life and death when the information is not accurate. Not always, at least.
Not always. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess there's times where it would be. Let's talk about you being masculine, feminine. So, are you very auditory? Like the way you learn is from sound or music, or like talk about your being auditory.
Yeah, I think so. I do see it for sure. Um I noticed, like, for example, I have a really hard time sitting down and reading a book like on a page, but
Yeah.
audiobooks I'll just go all day. And just take it in so much better as well. Like if I try to actually just read text, then I'll go through a page and realize I didn't actually take it in and I have to go back and blah blah blah. But audiobooks I can just keep going, put it on a high speed and it just works.
Yeah.
Yeah. um and music is definitely a big thing for me. I have always really loved music, and it's like it really just brings me in. Like if I put on my headphones and music, it's just everything else disappears. And I know a lot of people have that. I don't know if it's actually correlated to being audio, but it's definitely a very big thing for me.
I was laughing when you said that you can put like an audio in high speed and you can still pick it up because yesterday I was listening to this like video tutorial on how to do marketing, and I had it like 1.5 speed, and it sounds like this person's just talking gibberish. But like my girlfriend actually went up to me. He's like, "Do you understand what? Do you actually even hear what this person's saying?" I was like, "Yeah," and I told her exactly what he said. And he's like what the hell? Like, you know, it's like maybe it's like an audio power. You can like listen to things at high speed and like retain the information. You know, you are also your auditory and your kinesthetic. So let's talk about the kinesthetic stuff. How do you feel does your kinesthetic stuff work? Like, do you feel like you're quite kinesthetic? You're good with like exercise or movements or learning by doing things with your hands. Like, how do you feel, or what's your experience with that?
I'm not sure. I feel like I don't really understand kinesthetic deeply enough to really say like how I see it in myself. Um, but because I don't relate to being, I'm not good at sports. I'm the absolute worst at like sports. Do you know what proprioception is? It's like sort of being aware of where your limbs are, even when you're not looking at them. It's like
Yeah,
that feeling.
yeah.
Mine is really bad. It's like notoriously bad. Um, but then I do relate to learning things through doing and movement. Like, for example, I play guitar, and once the movement is sort of in my hands, it just stays there for the longest time, even if I stop practicing.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
okay. That's interesting. Do you feel like maybe with the kinesthetic stuff, you just didn't practice enough to kind of say that you're bad at it or good at it? Because when I was a kid, I was an NT nerd like you. So like I didn't play sports, right? But then I think when I was 13, or is it 12? 12, I think I was 12. I clued in that playing basketball is like cool. It's like SF cool. So I started playing it so I can be cool, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then after I played enough, I got to the point where like I was pretty decent at it. And I was like, I picked this up pretty quickly. Like I can catch a ball, like they always joke, right? Can this person catch a ball, right?
Yeah.
Or like, can this person throw a football or whatever? And like, and then I learned as a kid, I'm like, oh yeah, I could do that, all that stuff, like I could do that. Like I work as a personal trainer now, for God's sake. Like, and like, so like I used to work at Starbucks too, and I used to make coffee, right? And I used to like design the coffee so I can make like the perfect cappuccino. So I feel like maybe you just didn't practice enough,
Maybe.
like I think if you did it, like if you like, I don't know, went to YouTube and like saw like a video on how to do like a proper workout routine, and then you went to the gym for like 2 months, I think you would get like super good at it. And then like it, or like, you know, like even with like my example with the coffee, like I was making like cappuccino. It's like it's very sensory and kinesthetic too, because I'm like I had to make like the latte and stuff, right? And then make the foam and whatnot. So I don't know. Like, do you have experience? Maybe not sports, but do you have experience with like non-sports stuff? Like, and you have to use your kinesthetic to make something like cooking, for example. Like, you know, like, are you good at cooking, for example?
I'm decent at cooking. I actually worked in a kitchen for a while, and I'm trying to think. I do think I used sort of kinesthetic there a lot, like, you know, like cutting stuff really fast.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
I got pretty good at that pretty fast now that I think about it. I would just like, oh god, it was hell. Sometimes I would just have to cut 10 kilos of zucchinis, but it just goes like chop 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 chop, chop go next, you know. And it's just sort of once you're in the movement, it just keeps going. Yeah.
okay. So it sounds like it's like an untapped like skill that you have. Like it's an untapped skill. Like
Yeah.
like your tank for kinesthetic is huge, but then you've only like really like done like this much, you know. And I feel like
Yeah.
I feel like if you went on a deep dive, you can go like get really good at it. You're like, oh my god, like next time I see you, you're like rip, you know, like
I'm gonna be here like Wes Watson. Like...
yeah. You're walking the yard, like not only did you get ripped, you discover your double masculine sleep, and you're like
yeah.
really intense, like you know, it's like walking the street, you know. Oh, I was like, oh, what the hell? Who are you? You know.
Yeah, I have been watching Wes Watson a lot and working out at the same time. So maybe a year from now, who knows?
Yeah, you'll be Jack.
Yeah.
You'll be was it? You'll be prison rep, prison Jack. Yeah. Maybe
Yeah.
you'll have a tattoo also. I'm just kidding.
Oh God.
So I have a few more questions for you. Now I want to talk about like the sexual modalities when it comes to your functions. So talk about your feminine NE. Do you feel like you forget concepts and patterns that you've learned in the past?
It's hard to say that. I don't know.
Or
Probably.
do you enforce it on people? Do you force your patterns on people?
No, I don't think so. So I do have an example that comes to mind. Like I read Parallel Worlds by Michio Kaku, like astrophysics stuff, cosmology stuff. And there was this whole thing about this like thing called Omega. And I don't remember anything about what it does or what it means, but I remember there were the numbers 0.3, 0.1, and 1. And I remember those numbers, but I don't remember like where it actually factored into the whole thing. So I guess you could call that forgetting patterns and remembering sensory.
Yeah, no, I can 100% relate to that because I always remember the numbers, but I don't remember like. Okay, but do you know where to find the patterns? Like, because I know, like sometimes I forget the patterns and the concepts, right? But like I know which page of the book where I got that pattern from, so I can go back and like reference it. So do you feel like with your SI, you can at least remember where the pattern was? You know?
I think so. Yeah, I'll remember approximately where it was. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can like go back, like, oh yeah, you're right. This is what it was. Like,
yeah. And I remember that it was like sort of between this other thing and between that other thing, kind of a little.
When you forget your concepts and patterns, later on when someone brings it up, you're like, oh yeah, I remember that. How did I forget that? Like, does that ever happen to you?
Yeah.
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 Now let's go with the other side. Now we're gonna go with the TE and the FI. Do you find that with your masculine TE, you're very movable with the tribe? You're easily pushed around. You get bulldozed by people. Like,
yeah. I am definitely very, very movable with people, and I don't know. I've just it feels sort of like a sort of very cautious dance, sort of like, oh, you want to go here? Oh, okay, we're going here. Okay, we're going here. Okay, we're going here. We're doing this. We're going. It's sort of like that, you know, like very responsive instead of proactive. I feel like it is.
gotcha. Do you feel that that could be because of Last Demon though?
Could be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. What about the masculine FI? Like they said that when you are masculine with something, you're direct with something, right? So are you direct with your identity? Do you feel like once you kind of accepted that you love something that you kind of set on that?
Yeah. Once something is in my FI, I won't let it go. And it can sometimes take a lot for it to really get in there. But I see it as sort of like my FI, there's these like gates, and there's just a sort of guardian outside the door, like, are you worthy of coming in? But then when something is inside, it's just not coming out again. It's like, for example, I grew up watching Star Trek with my family.
Yeah.
And I know that I will love Star Trek my whole life, no matter what. Like, a lot of the new stuff, it's not even that good, but I love it, and I just don't care. Yeah.
Just like the whole theme, even if the new one sucks.
Yeah. It's just Star Trek.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, yeah. No, I can relate to that because I watch like crappy movies too, just because I like it. You know, like people say this is a terrible movie, and they'll give you the breakdown. It's like, who cares? You know, it's
Yeah.
still like it. You know.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Yeah. Keep going.
I was gonna say about the Star Trek thing, like I got sort of weird about it too, because there was a new show, Star Trek Picard, and for the first couple episodes, I was like, okay, not too bothered about it. I love it because it's Star Trek, but I would enjoy watching it and then talking to other people and sort of seeing like, oh, what did they do well? What didn't go so well? What could be improved about the show? But then in like the last episode, there was something that really hit my FI, because like this character that I loved when I was a child came back, and there was this whole thing. And then after that, my sister called me for a regular let's talk shit about it session, and then suddenly I was like, no, it's great. Like,
Yeah.
and everything that she had against it, I would like make up all these bullshit reasons that were like, no, this is why they had to do it, and it's actually great.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's interesting that you locked into Star Trek. It's like the typical like like when they would expect like someone with NT to love, right? It's Star Trek. Yeah. Like I only watched what was the one I watched? I used to watch this one where like they got lost in space and then
That's Voyager.
they're trying to find their way home or something. And
Yeah, with the female captain.
yeah, I love that. I love that one. That was my
It's my favorite.
my favorite. Yeah, that was so good.
It's so good. Yeah.
So good. But I feel like maybe there's like maybe our animals have something to do with like why we love that one. Like there's something about the theme of being lost in space and like trying to find your way home. It's like there's something about it's like like if you already have a home base, you're going on a mission. It's not the same as like you're lost.
Yeah.
Let's go find a way home. There's something so interesting about that, like
Yeah.
like why was it like the concept of like being lost and not being able to find your way home? It's like what was it about that that's so fascinating or exciting or interesting?
I think it's kind of like you really don't know what to expect then, It's like really like anything could happen.
Yeah.
That's, yeah.
Is it because
endless possibilities.
yeah, possibilities, yeah, that could be it. Do you find that it's because also it's like a very chaotic situation too? Like it's an EP.
Mm-hmm.
It's like there's no control, you're completely there's no jurisdiction that's there to protect you. You're all alone, you're on your own, you have to be 100% independent, and then you have to go find your way home. It's like, do you find that part of it's kind of like alluring?
It is definitely fascinating. Yeah.
So
I've never really thought of it this way.
Yeah, I mean, just a thought process, because like because that's both our favorite, and then we're both NETs, right? So we're like, oh,
Yeah.
there's that correlation to that, right?
Yeah.
So you're Dutch, right? So Dutch people love to travel. So do you travel a lot?
Not really. I think that's partly because of how, like, my age. Like, I've always, for a long time, I was just dependent on my family for traveling.
Right.
I have been to quite a few places, like, thankfully, with like my family. In the past, we always just went to France every year. But when I was like 14 or something, my stepdad, he went to work in Saudi Arabia for 3 years. And then he was making a lot of money, and he took us to Dubai for Christmas, and we went to Istanbul, and I've been to Athens and just quite a few places. I would love to travel more though, because I've never really been outside Europe except crossing the bridge in Istanbul, where you're technically in Asia, and then Dubai.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's interesting because when I went, I took a year off to go backpacking, which is, I think it's kind of funny too, like with like culture and stuff, because like when I took a year off to go backpacking in like I'm from Canada, so I'm born in the Philippines, but I grew up in Canada. So people, my relatives in the Philippines, thought it was kind of weird. My friends from Hong Kong thought I was wasting my time. People in Canada thought I was kind of like crazy and brave. But then when I talk to Dutch people, to them it's like, oh yeah, I've done it twice already. You know, it's like, you know, or you talk to Germans, right? Because they do this like in Europe, this is normal, right? To take a year off,
It is.
go backpacking. So I just think it's kind of like interesting with the culture. Like you go to one culture, you're now suddenly a crazy person, and then the other culture, you're like, yeah, been there, done that. You're not doing anything special, you know.
Yeah.
So I thought I thought I asked you that question because like when I was going backpacking, I thought it was like a weird feeling because like I felt like I was really good at it. It's like it was my first time going backpacking. I've never done this. This is completely against what my culture does. Like as a Chinese person, you know, they don't go backpacking, right? I barely met any Asians when I went backpacking other than the random Japanese person. So, but like as an EP, when I was backpacking, I was like, huh, I wonder if all ENFPs are good at this stuff. Like I would be thrown in the most chaotic situation with like, and then somehow figure out a way to get out of that situation, and not only get out, but get out with like such a good finesse. And I almost felt like I was like, oh my god, I was like born to do this, you know. Like I was born to have like a backpack and like just have all my stuff into this one little backpack, and like as I organize this small backpack so that it has every tools that I need and protect it, you know, like as I like, you know, like they said at SI, your things are personal.
Yeah.
Protecting my stuff with my life, right? Like I was more scared that my stuff would get lost than someone would harm me, actually. You know? So I don't know what that. So let's go with that then. So let me ask you about your things. Are things personal for you?
I think so, yeah.
Like do you get
not everything, but a lot of things.
You get really territorial with your things?
Kind of, but then I feel like I shouldn't be. So then I'm like, oh yeah, sure, you can borrow this thing, but then I'm just super uncomfortable the whole time.
Yeah. That's what I mean. Yeah. So it's not about what shouldn't be, but what you actually feel, and you feel uncomfortable. The fact that you feel uncomfortable is like is a sign that you are territorial about that stuff.
Yeah.
I find that it's also because of the Fi+Si. It's like double masculine when it comes to like stuff. Then like you're not only is stuff personal, it's like it's double it's also double masculine, right? So
yeah.
But do you feel like it's only for things that means something to you? Like let's say it's your laptop or like a sentimental value item, you know? Because if someone wants to borrow something that you don't care about, then are you still?
That's fine.
Yeah, you're not territorial. Like, okay, give me an example of an item that you're territorial about and you have sentimental value for versus an item that you don't care about. And if people borrow it, who cares?
Sentimental value. This necklace, actually. I've had it for a couple of years. There's a whole story behind it as well. And I like my nephew, I have a nephew who's like a year old.
Yeah.
And a couple months ago, he was really fascinated by it. So then I was like, I'll let him play with it. But then I'm just watching him constantly. Like, is he going to break it? Like, is this baby going to break my necklace? Yeah. So that's one thing. Something that I'm not territorial about. Pens, I guess. Some people get really weird about having people borrow their pens. I've never really had a problem with that. That's an example, I guess. It's not a very good one, but
maybe the lead SI people, like the ISTJs, take their pen, you ruin their day, you know?
I mean, I do have one pen that's more expensive, so I won't lend that to people just for like if I lose it, that's worth a lot of money. But it's not like I have a sentimental sort of like
attachment to it.
Yeah, no.
Gotcha. All right, so I have last two questions for you, and then we'll wrap this up. The first question I have is, what do you think you need to do to improve on your sleep last or SF? Like how would you improve it moving forward to the future? Because this is your problem area, and this is the area that would bring you the most value in your life. If you add even just a little bit of it, even like 5% or 10% more, sleep or SF would really bring and make your life a lot better. What would you do? What do you think you need to do?
Well, I'm focusing right now a lot on the sleep and feelings aspect of it more than just a specific SF.
Yeah.
I've started meditating every day.
Okay.
And also recording audio journals in the evening, and then I, like, in a little while when I have some saved up, I'll listen back to them. At least that is the plan. That's what Chan told me to do. And just try to get more in touch with that sort of that known information, I guess, and also feelings. I've been doing the cry routine, which Dave and Shan also recommend. And I did it a couple days ago after like pending, like having my emotions spent up for like a month, and then I was like, shit, I need to do this more often. So I'm trying to do that regularly and get more in touch with the feelings and the FI that way, I guess.
But is it easy for you to cry though? Because I find that crying is super hard for me.
It's easy if it's been pent up for a very long time and I get to the breaking point and then it's like, oh shit, now it's going for 2 hours.
Yeah.
But if I actually like doing this regularly, it does make it hard to cry. But what I'm hoping is that like I have this like playlist of songs, and I'm kind of hoping that maybe it'll somehow associate with crying, and that like listening to that will at some point just start triggering my body like, okay, it's crying time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good, actually. That's good advice. Okay, so since we started the interview, it's clearly obvious to me that you have consumed over blast. Because I noticed that it's easier for you to take in or to consume than to blast.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes when you're blasting, you kind of like stop.
Yeah,
you stop. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, maybe you're not a complete blaster like I am.
No.
But do you have any questions about like what it's like to be blast above consume? Because that's the only thing we have that's different, is that I have blast over consume, right?
What is demon consume? What is it like? Like, what is consume? Because I know you were typed like play consume first, right? And then they changed it or something?
Yeah, so when I first met Dave, like, I mean, when I first talked to him on the phone, he thought I was play consume blast sleep, masculine, feminine. And then when I met him in person, so I met Shannon and Dave in person, right? They had a meetup in Seattle, and they said that I was play consume blast sleep when they met me. But they said they also found some clues that I was blast above consume, because they said that they would be telling me stuff and I'm not listening to them. Now, I'm not listening to them because they were not giving me any reasons to listen to them, because the stuff that they were telling me to me was bullshit, right? Because like it's like, no, you're just pulling stuff out of your ass now, because it's not accurate. The information is not accurate. You didn't give me the sensory, I guess the ST, I guess. Like where's the evidence, But like when I gave them my official typing videos, they're like, oh, you have blast over consume. That's what they said to me. And they said they actually wanted to type me consume less. They said that I can use sleep. They said that you're using sleep, like you're using it a lot actually. You're using it a lot, like it's still a demon, but you're using it. So they want to type me as sleep last, or sorry, consume last. But they're like, but you're info dominant. You're obsessed with accuracy of information. So they're like, we don't know how the hell you can use sleep when you have sleep last. But it seems like your consume is the biggest problem that you have. So they said that I need to consume more. I was like, but that's my life problem. I'm consuming too much. That's already my life problem. This is so I was thinking to myself, like, this is a bad advice. Because like I have the typical ENFP problem. I have trouble getting started. I have trouble, building anything long-term meaningful. So I was like, this is shitty advice, But then when I get started blasting, actually, then I can keep going. Once I build the momentum and I can blast, like even right now, I'm like, oh, okay, I made like 30 videos in a row, 30 days in a row. Like that's pretty nutty,
Yeah.
You know, I don't see other ENFPs doing this, you know. But like, and then like I was at that like the Facebook group, like the Facebook ENFP chat, and I was like watching the other ENFPs because I did agree with David Shan that I do have play and blast together because I get really manic. Like I don't know about you. Do you feel like you get manic?
Sometimes, but not so much. I really feel that sort of like I start my energy high and then it kind of drops off into the consume mode. And then it takes a while. If I'm like, maybe I'll end up going back into the higher blast energy, but I really see that like pretty quickly.
You're also pretty calm though.
Mm.
Like I am not a calm person. I am like hyper to the max. Like I'm really manic, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see it. Like I'm super manic. So it's like I've always thought I was either consume, play, blast, sleep, or play, blast, consume, sleep. Like there's only two options in my opinion for me
Mm-hmm.
because I was so manic, right? So when they said I was play blast, I was like, okay, I'm not gonna rule it out because I am manic as hell.
Yeah.
I went to the Facebook chat and I'm like, okay, I don't talk like this other Ne+Fi people, you know, like no, I don't speak their language, you know, so like it's kind of, you know, earlier we were talking about like your NF has a limit. It has like
Mm-hmm.
so I was like, oh, I think after reading some of those chat, I'm like, okay, I've hit my limit. Then I like turn off my Facebook, right? You know, because I was like, okay, you know what, I've had enough NF limit now, you know.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay. Reluctantly, I accepted I was play blast consume sleep. And then I was looking at the consume stuff too. I was like, when am I using consume then? Because I am consuming stuff all day. Then I realized I'm like, oh, I'm only consuming things that backs up what I'm blasting. So let's say I'm blasting about something and I hit a wall. Now I need to consume to like support the
Yeah.
blast. You know, like they always talk about like, you know, let's say for us the play is like the king, and then like I guess the next animal is supporting that play. So everything is supporting like the biggest animal, I guess. And then so I noticed that I was using consume to support the blast. I was like, okay, I need to talk about this topic on my video. So I need to
Mm-hmm.
consume information about it, make sure it's accurate, and then I can blast about it. But I wanted to blast about it without consuming first, but I knew that I would be full of shit if I did that. So I needed to consume first. So it's like the decision to blast before to consume was there. But
Yeah.
yeah, but so what about you? Do you feel like you don't do that?
I I feel a lot. I really don't relate to like only consuming to support the blast. I feel like I'm just sort of a sponge. Like I just will just consume stuff all the time. And it's great if I can end up blasting and talking to someone about it. But I do see the consume supporting the play, but definitely the blast comes later. Yeah. It's like what I mean by consume supporting play is that like I absolutely love sort of going like, hey, I saw this cool thing. You watch it too, so then we can discuss it. But I'm not going to teach you about it, kind of. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. And you don't blast that much either. Like I noticed that your blast is like the supporting cast. You know, it's like supporting your
Yeah.
consuming your play. It's like, you know, you'll blast for like a short bit, and you do have blast. It's there. I can see it, but it's not. It's very soft, and it's like, you know, it's like definitely supporting what you consume and what you. It's mostly like you're trying to tell me the facts, you know, to kind of support your idea or whatever it is that you learn.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, for me, I'm just going crazy. Like,
Yeah, it was so funny because I was still like kind of on the fence because Dave was sort of saying like, maybe blast second, because he'd seen like my YouTube videos, which are really edited, because the reality of that is I would blast 2 sentences and then look at the ground and then blast 2 sentences. But he was saying like, maybe play blast. So I was like on the fence, but then you entered the group chat and you just started going and I was like, oh, okay. So that's blast.
yeah, Evelyn and Reggie's like, that's what a blast looks like. Yeah.
So I was like, yeah. And then also people in the Discord server, they're like, yeah, no, you're not Kendrick.
Wait, who's in the Discord server, anyways?
Like a whole lot of people, but this is, I don't know if you know Anessa. She's a INTJ. She's also on the Facebook group.
I don't think I've interviewed her.
No, you haven't. No, but she's the one who told me like you're not Kendrick.
What type is she?
She is INTJ.
I mean,
NITE.
NIT.
Last play consume.
Oh, she's a super extroverted INTJ.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. You're like, I'm talking to you right now, and I can feel like, okay, you know what? If I wanted to like just like bulldoze you, I can. Like
I always just sit here. Uh-huh.
Yeah, no, because I can feel it, right? Like I can't bulldoze Evelyn because Evelyn's double masculine, right? You know, she'll just be like, what the fuck are you doing, right? But even when I was interviewing Reggie, I felt like Reggie had a lot of pent up energy too. Because like when I would be talking, I can feel like he just wanted to explode and pounce out, kind of like Black Panther, but like,
Mm-hmm.
but like, for you're like calm about it. Like, you're like, oh, okay, you're talking. Okay.
Yeah, I was just back.
Yeah, you're like, okay. For him, it's like, he's like charging up energy, right? Waiting for me to like stop talking so that he can be like, rah, like it's,
Yeah.
Because like that's how I feel. Like when people talk, like the energy gets charged up now. It's like, it's getting charged up. And I'm like, no, hold it. And then when you're done talking, I'm like, ooh, it all comes out. Then after it comes out, there's like a relief, right? I'm like, whew, okay, now you can talk. It's like, it's like holding your breath almost, like with like, like I need to talk. It's coming up, and the less I talk, it's like,
Wow.
Yeah. But do you relate to that at all or no?
I'll get that if it's like, again, the same thing I've said before, if it's something that's really in my FI, like if it's about linguistics or like Star Trek, then I'll get that because I'll be like, I have so many things like ready to go. And then sometimes I get like, oh, I want to tell you this cool thing. Yeah. But generally, not really.
Yeah.
Like in voice chat and Discord as well, like I'm so grateful when like the blasters show up because then I can be quiet.
They said that people that I don't know who said it. I think it was Dave who said it. Dave and Evelyn said it to me. They said that I was an EPIJ. So you were talking about Discord this whole time, and I have this weird IJ thing that happens to me where I like I almost want to resist something new. I've never used Discord before in my life. Never ever in my life have I used Discord, and I purposely even resist going to Discord, just because like it's like new, like I want to use what's known, and and it's weird because it's like almost like a contradiction, right? Because like we're EPs and we like the new stuff, right? And I do gather a lot of new stuff, but like I'm really weird about it because there's some stuff that is new that I don't want to gather. So this Discord is one of them. Like I remember, Laura, the ISTJ. Yeah. So she was talking about Discord and stuff, and I think we had a brief conversation about it. And I was like, nope. I'm not gonna go to this Discord stuff. I'm gonna ignore it. But then now everyone's talking about it. The whole tribe is talking about it. I'm like, okay, I think I need to like learn this Discord stuff. Because like I was
it's great. It's worth it. It's
what is
really
it though?
great.
What is it though? I don't know what it is.
So it's just you just talk to people, and there's lots of different text channels. So there's like text channels for like about animals or talking about functions, or there's also a chaos room, which is my favorite place.
But like, are you talking on like are you typing stuff or are you chatting by voice or like?
You can do both because you can type, but there's also a voice channel where you can literally just click on voice and then you're in voice and people can join and you can have a conversation and you can use video and live stream. You can just do everything in one place.
So which one are you using?
Both.
Both.
I'll text a lot, but if people are in voice chat, my favorite thing is to go on the voice chat.
Oh, I see. Got it. And then a lot of the odd people are there?
Yeah, it's so there's a server, like specific, because you have on Discord, you have servers. So someone can say, I want to have a Discord. It's like a Facebook group, but it's a Discord server. And so there is a Discord server for objective personality. And so that's where a lot of the people from like the Facebook groups and stuff, they're all in there.
So it's kind of like Reddit then?
Kind of.
Okay.
But more chaotic.
Okay. Okay. Got it. Got it. Well, thank you for blasting. I have to look into that now. All right. Anyways, that's our interview. So thank you, Amelie, for doing the interview. That was a lot of play, which was super, like it really energized me to do all the play. So that was good. Yeah, so thanks again. And I'm going to I'll say goodbye, everyone. And
bye, everyone.
and then I'll hit the stop button here.